Hey there, folks. So, last episode we did a release build and like a shipping build just to make sure the basics of everything are working there. Obviously, there's not much in our game to test, so it was really run the game, try the menu, and that's that. So, however, this episode, as I mentioned, we are going to start work on a temperature system. Now, one of the things that I was trying to decide on how to do this is, did I want it to be its own actor? Did I want to use it in conjunction with something I already have? And I came up to the best answer I could think of was to hook it in as part of the Chrono Manager. This is sort of our world manager. Should have named it better, but at this point I don't want to rename the class. But this should be more of an environment manager. So the first thing we're going to do today, though, is we're going to talk about timers. That's the way we're going to intend. Well, I plan on intending to use the. Oh, I intend to use timers to control my weather management, temperature management, things like that, because I don't want to be. What's the word? Well, I don't want to be updating my weather every frame. I don't want to be updating my temperature every frame. And putting it as part of a tick, yes, you can do a tick cooldown and things like that, like we did with the update time. But the only reason for this is because we're going to have dynamic day length. And we need to calculate that with a degree of accuracy. Whereas with the weather, if the weather change is off by a minute or 2 minutes game time, the player's not going to notice. But when you're having things like a visual clock that a player could have, then you want to make sure you're not having things where it's jumping from like 10:52 to 10:56 because there was a 4-minute glitch in there. So for weather and temperature, I'm going to be using a timer to run all the events. It helps keep things out of the tick loop, which is the best thing you can do wherever possible. So first thing we're going to do is get those set up. So timers require a couple of different components. The first thing, actually I'm going to put these into another region. Pragma region, no, lowercase r. Temperature. Pragma end region. So you need a F timer. You can let me handle. Yep, delegate. Sorry, F timer handle. World temp archer time handle. If I could spell. So this is just the handle. It's a pointer type thing towards that. And then you also have the delegate. And what that is, the delegate, actually I'll put that in here, F timer delegate. What the delegate is it's similar to the multicast that we set up for our time change, but it works the opposite way round. What it does is it is telling the timer, like the engine's timer, when this timer expires, call this function. So world temperature delegate. And then there's the one last thing, which you probably just guessed from what I said. You need the function it calls. So void, actually this needs to be a U function. U function. Void update temperature. Now, we're not using any delegates or any delegates parameters or anything like that. This is just going to be a case of every X number of seconds, call this function. We're going to do some temperature updates. Now, on that note, this is going to be, again, dependent on how you want to have things set up. But you're going to want a variable in most cases to control how often this fires off. Like, is it every 1 second, every 10 seconds? So, property, edit defaults only, because you only want to edit this in your Blueprint viewer. Again, as I mentioned a couple episodes ago, there's going to be some configuration for this. Getting to the game configuration is something that we're going to do a little later on. But that is something that basically you could have set up that it's like, okay, for anyone who's familiar with, say, Project Zomboid, I mentioned that game just because there is a huge amount of configuration options for that. You can, as you're going to set up your sandbox playthrough, you can go through and you can change a huge number of variables like time, starting date, typical world temperature, is it dry, is it wet, things like that. So, but anyway, so edit defaults only, Blueprint read only, because again, we don't want anything changing this, at runtime other than our C++ code. And then obviously, because we're in the private section, meta equal allow private access. And I really don't know why that doesn't come up as an IntelliSense suggestion, but true. Float world temp tick rate. Now, I haven't done this in a little while. I had mentioned it previously, but I believe tooltip is what it goes under, actually. Let me see. What did I put that under? In here, actually? Yes. If you notice, I haven't even gone through and cleaned these up. I'm going to have to do that off camera one episode. But I would also suggest for something like this, for your tooltip, add in... I got one too many braces in there. What it's for. So in this case, it's number of seconds between temperature updates. So, now that's the very basic thing. However, we do need to have some more information here, because yeah, great, we've got these firing off, but we're not actually doing anything with that. So let's add in a uProperty visible anywhere. We don't want this to be, forget to spell property, right? Visible anywhere, Blueprint read only. This is just to see what the current temperature is. And we'll be watching this update. Current ambient temperature. Now, this is where, as a developer, you need to pick what way you want to do your math when it comes to temperature specifically, because, well, as you know, 90% of the world, or more than 90% of the world, I don't know what it is, use Celsius. Good portion of the world uses Fahrenheit. Obviously, mainly the US, and there's a couple other places. I think there's like 2 other countries that still use imperial. And you have to decide, do you want to do, and this is purely for the math. There's going to be a function later on that you can change how it's displayed. Don't worry about that. This is how you want to do the math. So are you more comfortable working in Celsius or Fahrenheit? Now, I'm in Canada. We use Celsius. However, I would prefer to work in Fahrenheit because it is a finer grain scale. Like, what is it, 5 degrees Fahrenheit to 1 degree Celsius? You get more accurate measurement with Fahrenheit. That is where I'm going at with that. My math, I don't know the conversion math. I've got it noted down. So But anyways, world temp in let me pull this up here. I want that. Hopefully that doesn't break anything. And I got that backwards. And that's current world temp. And I'm just going to say start this at 75. That is just the base initialization value. This is going to be changing dramatically in short order. So now there's a couple of other things we're going to need. We need to have a daily float curve, an annual float curve, to account for temperature variation over the course of the year. So, well, we already have those. Those are pretty easy to do. This is one I thought about because we are only dealing with our base. We're not doing a randomization value. We're doing a median daily and a median annual. I could not think of any other value we needed in those two categories to justify anything but a float curve. So you only need that particular one here. So I'm going to just grab this quickly. And I'm going to go down, minimize that again. U curve float. Pointer, daily temperature range, and U curve float. Yeah, it's U curve float. Float annual temperature range. Yes, that's how I have to spell things out. I have to enunciate the syllables heavily. Edit anywhere. Now I don't want edit anywhere on these. I want edit defaults only. Blueprint read only. Daily temperature range. Okay, and actually I want to add a category to these as well. Let's go fix this one. Temperature. And again, the whole reason for the category is that is the collapsible sections within your actor's detail panel. What this will do here is it's going to show up in the chrono section, and then it's going to, this pipe is a indicator that it's a subsection. So that's going to be in chrono, subsection temperature. So let me grab these, and I'm just going to drop that into the other two. And thankfully, the way Unreal Engine's decorators are set up here with these U properties and their attributes, it doesn't matter what order these can be in. So you could really have your category, then edit defaults only. You could mix these up in any order. I've never had a problem with the order I've put them in. So now that we've got all that, we're ready to get our basic information. I just realized I spelled current wrong. So I'm going to save that. We are going to create definition for our update temperature. Now, we are almost 100% ready to start writing that code. The first thing we want to do, though, is we want to make sure our timer is actually functioning. So what we're going to do here is, where's my delegate? World temperature delegate. Yep, I got that right. So in our begin play, before we do anything with the super, I like to do this. Super is call any parent logic is the shortest way to explain that. So, but what we want to do here is get world, and then it is get timer manager. Now this isn't a pointer in the case that you need that, but you want set timer. Timer handle. I grabbed the wrong one. I grabbed the delegate. Then you want the delegate. I had those backwards. I thought we wanted the delegate first, then the timer, or the handle. Now it is the function to call. And then which one is the one we're going to be using? Handle. No. I'm trying to find delegate rate. Okay, handle, delegate, rate. I think that's the one. Nope, nope. We want this to be repeating. Delegate, time manager parameters. Oh, where's the one we want? I can never remember all of these. Handle, rate, loop. Handle, delegate, rate. Okay, that's the one we want here, the 7th one. So we've got our handle, we've got our delegate, we've got our function. We need the rate, which is our frequency, and then if it's looping, I'm just going to do this. So if the rate, if it's looping, and the initial delay. I don't want any delay the very first time. I want it to update the value, the moment it happens. And we've got this issue here. It's this. Pretty sure that was it. Or do I not need the actual declaration? Give me a second here. The class declaration. Is that it? What are you complaining about? If I pass and handle... No instance all matches the argument. Handle, delegate, void. What? Oh, I'm not... bind you function. This. So I was going about this an old way. You're not working. Are you needing to do? Oh, is this changed in 5.4? I swore this worked this way. Bind function. UObject template, so that's this. So it's this. Update temperature. So it should just be that. There's no vars, so we want that one. There's no vars. So no. Oh, I know why. I'm being very special. This is private. Oh, and I bet this isn't it, and I'm just making it look like I know what I'm doing. No instance element, int ret val type. Oh, they've templated a lot of this, haven't they? Int return value type of the void. Okay, I'm actually going to pause the video here. I'm going to see if I can find some documentation on how they have updated these timers, because yeah, this has changed drastically since I have last worked on this, apparently. I'm looking at my old notes, and let me just get this. Time manager set. Yeah, so that is how it used to work. Now apparently that's not. So as I said, I'm going to pause the video quickly. I will be back once I've dug up some additional documentation, and we'll take a look at that together just to see what's changed. Alright, so I actually went through and looked at my notes, and I realized I'm trying to combine two different timers. I was trying to include a timer that needed a parameter input and with a timer that didn't. So we're going to clean things up here a little bit. I'm going to actually get rid of this. And we're going to go back to our header for a second, because we don't actually need the delegate. The delegate is if you need to include a parameter, which we're not needing to do. That is what I screwed up. I went back, looked at my notes, and I was looking at a timer for a different function for a past project compared to what I was trying to do here. So now that we've got that, this one's pretty easy. And there's actually one other thing we need to do I realized I missed, but we'll cover that in a moment here. So we need to get world. We were almost along the right lines. Get timer manager. Set timer. And then we need our handle, so it's world temperature handle. We need the reference to the function we're calling, and this is where I screwed up because we're not passing in a parameter. We're just saying do some logic here. So, and as I mentioned, we need a reference to that. Then we need our, where is it here? World temperature tick rate. And true, I believe that was it. Oh, let me pull up what I had. I'm going to screw up here. Oh, and a reference to this actor. Sorry, that was it. That's what I screwed up. I wasn't including the reference to this actor. Okay, so that is what we have there. So what this is going to do, and then I think this lets us have the initial delay of 0. Yeah. So we want that to be updated instantly as soon as begin play is called. Now, that is going to execute this logic, which is going to set our timer. Now, we do need a way to stop that timer running, because if that becomes a null pointer, like if for whatever example you drop back to the main menu and we don't have a chrono manager there, it's going to try and hit that timer, but that's not valid anymore. So what we need to do is add an end play. I'm just going to copy over that from previous. So it's a virtual void end play. It takes a end play reason, and it's an override because it's overriding the basic a actor logic, because that's what we're derived from here. We're just a TF actor, but we haven't overridden anything there, which actually we need to do. So what we're doing here, and this is called whenever the actor is destroyed. What we are going to be doing here, and this one right now is very simple. We're going to be adding some additional logic as well. Let's see, let's get world. But that's something we'll be adding on later in the series. Sorry, my brain is in 27 different directions. Get timer manager, and then this one I think is just stop timer. Clear timer, sorry, and then we just pass in that world timer handle. And that's just saying, when this actor is destroyed, tell the timer manager, stop worrying about me. So we've got our basic information there for running our timer. Now we need it to actually do something. So we're going to update lighting. I'm going to grab that one. So I'm going to look at what we've got here. So we're going to, let's grab both of these. I hate trying to remember my own spelling. Daily temperature range and annual temperature range. Spelling is not my forte. And apparently it's tange, not range. Good thing I checked. Okay, if not is valid. Daily temperature range or not valid. Annual temperature range. So now, because this is something that's only happening at runtime, we don't need to do this every time. So actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to clear the timer and I'm going to return. And by runtime, I mean when we're playing in editor. We're creating the timer at start of the editor, and I started a play session, and if neither of these values are valid, or variables are valid, we don't want it to do anything because it's just going to break every logic. But we can leave that. So that's, let's say, again, as I've mentioned, I'm hoping to include modding support. A mod's created, there's no temperature or things like that. I don't want this to just completely fail. So what we are going to do here, though, is logger get instance add message. Daily. Oh no. Remember my own methodology here. You take your function, and just to explain, the whole reason for having your class and function here at the start is that tells you where in the code this message was generated. Daily or annual temperature range invalid. Error level warning. So as I mentioned before, you can just do this, but I prefer to go error level and just add that clear definition as to what enum I'm referencing. And the whole purpose for that is if for some reason you have a different enum that is EL underscore warning, you know which one you're using. But anyways, so now we have this information here. We can start actually writing the code. I shouldn't call this information, this error handling. So we need to get float current daily equals daily temperature range get float, I believe, get float value, and well, we need that in a range from 0 to 140. Well, let's take a look at how we did that in our calculate lighting or update lighting. Current time of day, because we have that value. So that's easy enough. There we go. That gives you what the temperature should be for the day at that time of day. So this is a generic one. So you want to think this is going to be what, January, February, March, April, May, June. We're talking your base curve is going to be around the April or May, because that's sort of like the median across the year. April, May, September, October timeline. Very rough. Well, now how do we do the annual? Well, we do have current time of day. Oh. Oh no, that was rotation. Rotation is where we had that current time of day dot day of year, current time dot day of year. So I'm going to do it this way, current annual, and this is just so when we debug through this, we can actually potentially see what's going on. So this should be a value, we're going to say normally it's in a range of, my Fahrenheit sucks, I'm going to say like 60 to 100. And this is going to have a value of, say, actually probably 60 to 90, but the annual is going to end up with a value in the range of like minus 80 to plus 20, things like that. And it's going to vary based on like where in the world you're sort of setting your temperature, your game, to know what your temperature ranges are. So what we're going to do here is current, actually, what do we call it? Because this is just for our math. Current world temp. Current world temp equals current daily plus current annual. And that's literally it. That's everything we need to do for that. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to throw a breakpoint here just in case. I'm going to build the project, launch into the editor, and as soon as I'm back in the editor, I will come back and we'll create our float curves, and we will see if this is actually working. All right, folks, we're back in the editor here. I'm just going to pull over my content browser quickly, and we're going to create our float curves. So in our data folder, in our project data folder, we're going to go into curves, and as before, miscellaneous, a float curve, a curve float. I'm going to call this a daily temperature range, and add another one, miscellaneous, curve, float curve, annual temperature range. So I'm going to open both of these up. Now, while it was building and off camera, I did some calculations as to how I want my temperature ranges to be. We're going to create 3 pins with just a simple middle click. This is in our annual temperature range. We want our third pin to be 365. How did I do this? I think it's 365, right? Annual sun intensity. Roll that over. Yeah, 365, and then daily was 1440, wasn't it? And yeah, okay, that was it. So annual, we want 365 for our third pin. And I did the math on this. I want the bottom out points to be a minus 30. I'm doing all of my math in Fahrenheit, and I'm going to convert it after. As I mentioned, it gives you a finer level of detail. And then just quickly, I know it's about 182 and a half. So I'm going to say 182. And I want the top point to be plus 35. And then here our 0 point, which is where it starts. We want that again to be a negative 30 value. And a very quick way, I don't deal with these snapping. I just hide and re-show the curve. Select the curve, and you want this to be smooth transition, even though we're hitting individual points in here, so like we're not too worried. But just do a auto curve. And remember, this is the ambient temperature that is over the course of the year. And for the annual, I should say, this is an adjustment based on what our daily temperature is. So I'm going to save this. Actually, I'm going to get rid of these annual, the sun intensity ones. And then the daily temperature range. So we need these ones to be between 0 and 1440. Those ones, I'm going to go 1440, and it's going to have a base value of 50. The middle one is 720, and that's going, not 72, 720, and that's going to have a value of 70. And this N1 0 value is going to have, again, a value of 50. So, again, hide and show. So this base value of 50 is going to have an adjustment of 30. So in December, in the dead of night, it's going to be 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what this adjusts to. That's not including things like cold spells or wind chill or anything like that. That is just if there was 0 other factors involved in the temperature range. Now, our daily temperature isn't going to be such a smooth curve. We're going to auto curve it, but grab some of our tangents, and we're going to want these to, actually it's not, we need that one. We want the funky alien looking one, because then we can adjust our tangents a little better. That's not the one I want to adjust. This is the one I want to adjust. And the reason being for that is temperature sort of doesn't drop off as easily over the course of the day. It sort of takes a while to warm up, but then once it does, it stays warm for a little while longer. So now this is just very rough. Let's try that, and let's throw an auto curve and see what that does. That sort of gives us what we want. So we're going to save that. And again, these are all values that you're going to adjust, you're going to tweak based on the settings you require. And I already know these aren't my final values. I'm going to be adjusting them as we go. So I'm going to close out of these. I'm going to just type in temp up here in the search so that those two are the only ones there. I'm going to move this off to the side. I'm going to go to my outliner and select my chrono. And you'll see in here we now have time, lighting, and temperature. This is the new one we added. Well, nothing's showing up here. We need to go into the blueprint, that's why. So I'm just going to open up my Chrono Manager blueprint quickly. Which screen's going to open up on? It's over here. I'm going to go back and just focus down to my temperature curves just so they're easy to see. And in here, temperature, you can now see them. So annual temperature curve and daily temperature curve. And you can see every 5 seconds, we're going to adjust our temperature. Now, these, the temperature tick rate is something you're going to want to try and closely relate to the day length in minutes. It might actually be worth doing a calculation within your code instead of leaving this as an exposed variable. So I'm going to compile this though just to make sure those are there. Come on, out of the way. I'm going to make sure our Chrono Manager is selected. We're going to hit play. And then we're hitting our breakpoint. So those should both be valid. Come on, Visual Studio, respond to my input. There we go. So we have a 70.1.031. Current annual temperature is -30. Current time of day. This is going to jump the very first time. That's because we don't have that set yet, do we? Oh. Well, it's going to be weird. I'm going to have to figure that out. But you can see current world temp is now 40 degrees. So I'm going to remove this breakpoint and continue. And you're going to notice there is going to be a weird jump if we catch this. So well, maybe not. doesn't help that my editor is being incredibly slow. Why is day of year 0? That's why. Okay, so we need to add some logic in here to account for that. Day of year. Current document. Set day of year. We need to, well, first of all, let's check that that's doing what we want. That is that weird math calculation I did with the fall through being intended. So what we're going to do here is on our begin play, just before we call this, nope, we're going to, actually no, I'm going to make some adjustments to how this is called. Set day of year there, and I'm going to call this after. So the reason for this is calculating day length, then we're going to set our day of year, and then we're going to do the timer. And the reason why I'm doing it this way instead of like set day of year, start the timer and that is as I just mentioned, I'm going to make this a dynamic variable that is going to adjust based on the day length. So now that we've done that though, we're going to hop back into the editor. I'm going to stop playing. I thought I already had. Wow, my editor is so... No, I know exactly why. Windows Defender's running. My computer updated last night and I forgot to turn it off. Alright, so now that we've done that, do a quick live code compile. And for anyone wondering, I only turn Windows Defender off when I'm working with the recording. And that is purely because, as you see, it has major performance impacts when it's scanning my code. I need to get a dev drive set up so it'll stop scanning. But anyways, so let's pull this over. And yeah, so right there, that is one of the reasons, and a good example of why you never assume your old code is still good. Because our day of year wasn't getting updated. And the reason being for that, it's still going, I'll pull that up, is we were only calling it on the advanced day. So that was only going to get calculated once every day. Because if we go here, that's advanced day. Set day of year, that's what we were calling. It wasn't called anywhere else. So we were only doing that once, and it was defaulting to 0. You needed to do that right at the beginning. So anyways, this build is taking a little while. So I'm going to pause the video, and I will be back as soon as this live code compile is finished. Hey folks, so things look a little different. For whatever reason, that live code compile just sat and hung. So I shut down the editor and I'm actually just compiling it again from Visual Studio. I did want to just quickly go over one of the changes I made, or not really one, but 2 changes I made. So first thing is I actually made this world temp tick rate just a visible property, excuse me. And the reason being for that is I was looking at the calculate day length and I realized, well, we already know how long a game time minute is. And I was thinking, well, I want this to update roughly every 15 minutes game time. So it's really easy to do. Just in the calculate day length, we've got our minute length worked out. And we just times that minute length by 15. So that's every 15 minutes we're going to reevaluate our ambient temperature. And subsequently, once we get everything else done, it will be used for that as well. And literally all that is that world temp tick rate. And you can see here, begin play. This is why I put the calculate day length above. So with that though, I'm going to pause things again. I'm not sure why my system is being a little weird. Even though I turned Windows Defender off, it's apparently still scanning my system. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm going to... Oh, now just as I say that, it actually starts going through. So there we go. You can see the build completed and there's no failures. We're going to launch into the editor. And hopefully this shouldn't take too long because launched into it while we were in the editor. Well, in my case, actually about 20 minutes ago. But for you guys, it was just mere seconds. So why are you being so slow? All right, so loading up here. But yeah, anyway, so just to go over why I made those changes. As I mentioned, one, you don't want it to happen on tick unless you absolutely need it to. The time, as I say, you want that degree of accuracy of we need to know to the minute. If you really wanted to go to the second, you could, but that's a level of accuracy I don't think is needed. That's why I only went to the minute with the tick, but all of this is now being done with a timer because we only want it to happen every, 15 game time minutes is how I decided to do it. So if you have a really long day, it only updates very infrequently. If you have a really short day length, it's going to update quite frequently. But that is something you will need to, in the future, calculate and do some performance testing on. So I had to sit there and think, what was the term I was trying to think of there? Because if you do end up having a value that is insanely frequently, because say you have a 10-minute day length, and you're finding the weather calculations are starting to be a performance hit, you could fix that by just... Oh, it hopped into the editor. I'll just finish my statement though. Fix that by, like, right here, have a clamp on this, so it's like a minimum of every 5 seconds, something like that. But anyway, so we're going to hop into the editor here. I'm going to select our chrono manager. Oh, come on, why is the editor being unresponsive? It's not even that old of a computer I have. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, I'm going to scroll down here. You can see we currently have day of year equals 0. Day length in minutes, I'm going to set that to 1. Because that's going to be insanely fast at 4 days in a minute. That would be every like 0.04 seconds or something insane like that. Even at 1, that's going to be insanely fast. But we've done that, and we're going to hit play in editor. We should see our day of year is updated, which it is. Day of year is not 28 though. It's the 28th. Okay, so we have something wrong with that here. But you can see world temp is ticking every 0.625 seconds. That's a little fast. Let's change that to 5 and just make sure that logic is working at least. And we'll have to reselect our chrono manager. And there you go. You can see that is updating correctly. Our day of year isn't. So let's go and figure out why. I'm going to hit play, so it hits that breakpoint. So current time month is 7. So current time of day plus equals 30, 31. Right here. That's why. Plus equals. So again, this is where I was mentioning before. Do not assume your old code is good. It may have looked like it worked at the time you wrote it. All of this looked like it worked at the time I wrote it. I never paid too much attention to it. So this one, let's see, is this live? Let's continue. I'm going to drop out of that. Continue. Ignore. Hop back to the editor. Stop. Let's see if this live compile. I'm going to just save that. See if this live compile is going to work a little faster now that the other one did. There we go. Okay, so this one worked really fast. Yeah, Windows Defender sucks in my opinion for that. Alright, so now let's try this again. So we're going to hit play. It's going to trigger our breakpoint. Oh no, I turned it off, didn't I? Yep. Okay, drop out of the editor quickly. I want to make sure this math is right, so throw that breakpoint back in there. I'm going to hit play. So current time of day is current time of day, and we actually have some flaws in here. I don't know how I thought this was valid. So I'm actually going to stop. So you can see we have current time of day. But what we really need to be doing is current time dot day of year. So what was happening, and what this would do is at the start, we were going to be jumping the time of day quite a bit. And every day we were going to be skipping, well, quite a lot based on that. Genuinely surprised I did not catch this when I wrote this code. But anyways, so now that we've fixed this glaring mistake in my code, and again, this is an example, like, I'm not perfect. No programmer's perfect. All of these YouTube series out there where you see, do it this way. They've probably gone through, and I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that's their style. I personally don't agree with it. But they've probably gone through and wrote the code, debugged it, spent an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours working with it to make sure it's good before recreating it in another project. So anyways, let's try this one final time. We're actually getting close to the hour mark on this one, and this is only the first part. So, wakey, wakey, editor. But yeah, so with that, like I said, I like to include my mistakes because everyone's going to make them. This shows you some tips and tricks on how to debug things. So in here, we can see current time dot day of year is 0. Down here, we can see it's our hex number. Now we're just going to drop this breakpoint, continue. Over here, I'm going to select our chrono manager. You can see it is now day 210, which is what we want. Current world temperature is 101 degrees Fahrenheit. And this will change slowly. You can see 0.469, 0.43. We're getting later in the day, so things are slowing down. So, cool. I'm going to drop that. I'm going to drop our day length down to 1. Just so we can see this happening in a little faster. You can see it's every 0.625 seconds. And you can see our temperature slowly dropping down from that 100 and some degrees. And that's going down to, I think we should hit a low of about 60? I can't remember now. Now, obviously, this isn't ultra realistic. You don't, in like, what are we, July is where this set, we drop down to 20. We jump to, and there's another flaw. We're now day 420. So, that is because, right here, we don't set it to 0. We are just adding to it. So we reset it, we recalculate it. Not the most efficient. Actually, I'm going to quickly add a new function here, but let's go back into the editor, make sure everything is saved, which is just our chrono manager. The short of it is, though, you can see this is working. It's giving us a rough idea. Where our problem is our current day of the year calculation that I screwed up. So I'm actually going to close out of the editor here. We want set day of year, and then I'm going to add a new private function for this because I don't want to call this every year. I'm going to create a time of day, temperature. Actually, I'm just going to add it down here in the function section. Void add day of year. So just to quickly cover what this is for, and then I'm going to wrap things up. So this is just going to be a called set day of year is going to be called at the start, and instead of advanced set day of year being called on advance, we're just going to call add day of year. And where did that go? Add day of year. Current time dot day of year plus plus. So that's just add one to it if current time dot actually no, this is where you need to calculate if it's a leap year, which is do that if current time dot day of year greater than 366. Actually, I'm going to do this as an actual if statement, not trying to do these fancy ones. No, I'm trying to think how to do this in an efficient way. Current time dot, if I could spell, current time dot day of year is greater than if so if it's 366, otherwise it's 365. So just to quickly run through, sorry, I had to sit there and mentally do this in my head, and I need to not talk when I'm doing that. So what we're doing here is we are taking the day of year and we're just incrementing it by 1. Then we're doing a check. If it's greater than, on a leap year, 365. If it's not a leap year, 366. We're setting that value back to 1. So save that. I'm actually going to go through and adjust our default value for these. Do I have these defined in here? Time of day would have been right. Current time, no. So that is defined in our base class. Time data. I'm going to set that to 12:30. 2024 is a leap year, which we want. I'm going to set that to 30, because then it'll roll over to the 1st. And if it changes on the 31st, we know it's wrong. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly run this, and that's where we'll end off the episode. But yeah, as I was saying before, I don't like trying to make it look like I'm a perfect programmer. I am not. Anyone who claims to be is, very high on themselves. I'll just put it at that. And the reason being is you're going to make mistakes. Now, they may be simple mistakes. They may be some really stupid mistakes like I was doing here with my calculating day of year. But you're going to make mistakes. Don't beat yourself up over it. It's going to happen. And the reason why I say don't beat yourself up over that is, look at what just happened here. I had a very simple mistake. I've got a tutorial on YouTube. For anyone who may have caught that when I actually wrote that code, they may think, oh, he's an idiot. No, I'm a programmer who makes mistakes, just like everyone. Whereas the other tutorials out there, and this is why, like I said, I've done mine, they make it like they're perfect, and nobody is. So anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox. We're going to quickly check this here. So you can see I've bumped this through to December 30th. Our day length is 1. I'm going to hit play. Reselect our chrono manager so we can see that here. And I'm just going to go through You can see our temperature is pretty cold there. We're starting at a high of 40 and we're dropping down. I actually think I need to lower my values there. Okay, so 365. Okay, now we got a couple more hours. It should roll over to day of the year 366 in a second here. Well, in day of the year is 1. So my logic is flawed. So what is wrong with that? Let's go take a look. Day of year is greater than current time dot year. Okay, I'm just gonna do. I want to make sure my math is correct. So we're gonna go 2024 divided by 4. That's a whole number, so it should be a leap year. Day of year. Again, I'm not looking at my own variables, the year. And this is here. Like, I'm not doing this on purpose. I fully understand it's probably looking like that just because of how many mistakes I made this episode. Or caught this episode, I'll rephrase that. But these are the sort of mistakes you make when you're rushing. And I'm rushing because I'm behind on episodes. I needed to get this recorded. I've unfortunately had some real life stuff come up. But this is actually taking too long. I'm going to drop this back down to the 0.25. So 4 days every minute. So this should go by really quick. So, because I want to prove this is working. This is now principle. Okay, so we're on the 30th. We're going to be rolling over to the 31st. And that's still... Did that not update? What is going on there? Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to throw a breakpoint here. And we're going to see what's going on. And unless this is a very easy fix, we will be addressing that next episode. So, let's see, go through. Should be hitting that breakpoint in a moment. Didn't hit the breakpoint. Did I not change that code? Add day of year. Oh, I threw the breakpoint in the wrong spot. Oh, it's... No, that should not... Okay, I think I've overcomplicated this code. And this is where the other times you're going to have some programmers out there that tell you, oh, yeah, use this weird formula or this new format because it's fancy and it works and it looks really cool. But then you run into a situation like this where we've got this where I tried to get fancy to do a single line chunk of code. Made mistakes. So I'm going to go if current time dot, and I changed the wrong one. Oh, day of year. Again, I'm not gonna just day of year. No, sorry. If year dot modulo 4 is equal to 0, if current time dot time of day, day of year is greater than 366, return, so we don't have to worry about the below code. So if we're on a leap year, if the current day is greater than 366, we're going to set it back to 1. Otherwise, if current time dot day of year is greater than 365, okay, I'm going to give this one last try. We've already crossed the hour mark, but this is principle at this point. But anyways, as I was going back to that, you're going to have people who suggest using fancy formulas, fancy formats to do math or to write code. Sometimes it works. If you noticed, I've used that approach elsewhere in the code. Sometimes it doesn't. Like right here, didn't work. So now let's go through, make sure my breakpoint is still there. It is. Let's try this one last time. I bet my Chrono Manager is still on 1 because I didn't save anything, did I? Yes. So let's drop this back to 0.25. And hop back in. Chrono Manager. Okay, so it's 365. We are on a leap year. This should allow it to roll over to 366. No, it's not. Why is it not? And we're not hitting that breakpoint. Why are we not hitting that breakpoint? Yeah, we're on an, yes, I know I don't have the fall through annotation I was expecting. What was it? Fall through? I'll have to look into that. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, so okay, let's just see. We should have this called once. Find all, we should see 2 references in here. Yep, declaration of and the use. Are we calling this one? No, and then we should only have 2 of these in here. Declaration and the use. So why is it not hitting that breakpoint? Well, at this point though, folks, we're pushing the hour and 10-minute mark. I am going to stop things here. I will get this fixed as part of the next episode. We'll cover that on screen. So, as always though, folks, thank you for watching. If you do have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, all that fun stuff, please feel free to leave it in the comments. I've been mentioning in the last couple episodes, and I will continue for the next little while. If you have any one-off little tutorial ideas you'd like some help with, please let me know in the comments. I'll see if it's something I can fit in as a one-time episode. I'm going to be getting to the point where I'm going to be releasing two episodes a week shortly, and that's just because I do have to do a lot of planning, like on a piece of paper planning sort of thing. And once I hit that point, I want to try and keep the videos a little more frequent. So if I can do some one-off tutorial videos in between, I'll do that. So anyways, folks, thanks again, and I will see you in the next episode.